Audiobook title Steel and Mana, 01-07, by Corty. This work belongs to author Corty. Source scribblehub.com. Chapter 1, Death and Rebirth. My name is Leon, and currently, I am in a very long line, waiting for reincarnation. And no, I am not joking. Right now, I am floating along hundreds of others, forming a straight line on a rainbow road in the middle of the grand nothingness. I tried looking left, right, up, and down, but there was nothing but the infinite cosmos and the rainbow road under my feet. Or, well, under me, as my feet are mangled horridly, facing the wrong way, both of them. I can see the bones sticking out, but I feel no pain, and they aren't bleeding. Maybe because my head is also not where it should be. Still, it is being held by my only remaining arm, which listens to my thoughts. It's just I am at eye level with my innards hanging out of my stomach. Dude, what the hell happened to you? I hear the man behind me ask. Turning my head around, I met the eyes of a middle-aged guy with half of his face missing and his brain hanging out like some kind of jelly, constantly trembling as he moved his mouth. I was run over by an FMTV. What the hell is that? He recoiled, almost letting the brain slip out from his skull. A military truck from the past century. The damn driver was an amateur. When we were getting it out of storage, the idiot floored it, and it ran me over and blew me into pieces like some kind of piñata. Damn, but from the past century? Do you mean from the 1900s? Some kind of World War I era shit? Eh? I chuckled. From the 2000s. That isn't past century. It's 2004. Dude, you got rocked in the head by that truck harder than it looks. What 2004? It's 2144. I think you have some brain damage, mixing up the numbers of the calendar. Fuck you, you mangled cheese tart, he shouted, holding one hand against his brain, ensuring it stayed there. And what happened to you? I chortled, looked into the barrel of a gun. It wasn't discharging. Wahahoho, fucking idiot. I burst out laughing, making some of the others turn towards us, joining in on the fun too. Fuck you, he blew out from his nose, hitting me, and my already badly bent remaining arm slipped, and I dropped my head. I saw it falling to the deep nothingness, seeing the road grow smaller and smaller, hearing the guy say it wasn't his fault. Idiot. Not that it matters. I died, and probably these are my last hallucinations before passing. My mind's manifestation was probably displaying the idiot who rode through me with that monster of a truck in this way, just when I was starting to get my life into order. Typical me moment. I got myself a degree in robotics of past and present, and finally, I could afford a gene enhancement from the money I made from being hired by the military. Bye-bye, memorizing all the books, trying to learn them. I could simply use my brain like a search engine, recalling everything I have ever read, and they say you can't pay to win in real life. I was even courting a cute girl. Everything was too good to be true. Ha! Error. Contamination on the cosmic reincarnation system, a voice said, coming from every direction. Great! Now my severed head has become nothing more but contamination. You know what? Fuck you too. Beginning cleaning process. Even if I wanted, I couldn't scream as an otherworldly force washed me over and made my head disappear, leaving me with only my brain there, continuing to fall downwards. I don't know how I remained conscious, but I still saw, heard, and smelled everything. Error. Contamination is passing through the realm's border. Abandoning process. Initiating emergency reincarnation. Spatial coordinates found. Commencing transfer. Huh! I wanted to ask something, but with a poof, everything was gone and turned extremely dark. Was my brain finally destroyed too? Or no, I was still here. Wait. I hear something. Sloshing? Muffled voices? I managed to open my eyes, and I saw tiny hands before me, floating in some fluid in the dark, while I also saw an umbilical cord attached to my body. Shit. Am I an embryo? Wait. The fact I can open my eyes and look at the shape of my body. My baby body? What the hell? Am I being reborn? Did my brain get dropped into an unborn child? Was it empty? Or did I squash the previous occupant? Damn it! I need answers. Maybe it was my trashing that made it happen, but I suddenly found myself getting pushed out, getting born. I wanted to curse, but I couldn't. I was simply hoping that if all this was real, I was not too early. 2. Chapter 2, Growing Up. It turns out I wasn't dreaming. My weird experience was not a delirious dream while I was lying on the concrete floor after being run over by a monster of a vehicle. I indeed died. My head got pushed off from whatever I was standing on, and then I got dispatched into reincarnation. It probably shouldn't have happened that way, as I retained my memories and even my modified brain box. Just after coming out of my mother, the intense light pierced my eyes, making them water up, and the loud noises around me were just as painful to my ears. I tried covering it, flailing around, voicing my discontent with the whole situation, but I only managed to utter baby-like cries, figures. It took me a day or two to get used to using my eyes, and finally, I could survey my surroundings. In those days, I was mostly in my mother's arms, who had long, blazingly red hair. She was a short but beautiful woman with breasts that would shame anyone I knew in my previous life, and now I had the privilege of sucking on them daily. This isn't that bad after all. When I was not immersed in sucking out my tasty daily meals, I was memorizing the words and world around me. My father was surprisingly tall and built like a tank, making me a bit jealous, to be honest. He reminded me of the ancient depictions of gods from the classical era, not to mention his straight blonde hair and piercing blue eyes. I just hope I inherited his body, including his lady killer spear between his legs. Damn it. That thing was a weapon in itself, and I saw it in use. They never bothered with covering my crib when they went at it on the bed next to me. Not that I'm complaining. Besides that, I immediately recognized I was in a room that reminded me of old images of a medieval noble's chamber. Fancy rugs on the floor, a huge canopy bed, paintings of my father in armor or in grandiloquent robes, or with my mother. Elaborate carvings decorated all the wooden furniture. Even my crib looked like it should be in a museum or something. If my predictions were correct, I managed to be reborn into a life of privilege as some kind of noble's son. Firstborn at that, as no siblings have come to visit me so far. Learning the language wasn't hard. I managed to do so by the time I turned 1, surprising the 2 when I started speaking in sentences. I may have taken this a bit too far, as my father threw a banquet for me, deciding to name me officially before my 2nd birthday, which was a custom in this era, it seemed. Well, it was fine, but before they could bestow me with a name that went into the registry of the country, I myself suggested that I should be named Leon. Now, with that, I have truly taken it too far, as never before anything like this happened in history, I think. Luckily, my parents turned out to be extremely protective and good people, as I was given the name Leon, and everyone was threatened by my father. If anyone leaked that his son was a bit abnormal, they would be cut into 4 pieces and thrown to the pigs. Watching the maids, some invited lower-ranking nobles and merchants' faces, he wasn't joking. At that point, I understood why he was named the Lion of the Frontier, Kalash, while my mother had the unofficial title of Handler of Kalash, Louise, and I got myself the title Cub of Kalash. What's up with these people? To that question, I got my answer in the following years while growing up and being allowed to tour our robust, sturdy castle and its cold, stone corridors. When I first went to the battlements and looked at the mountainous region, my jaws dropped to the floor. Seeing the picturesque scenery was a true gift. I still wasn't allowed to visit the town I could see from here. But if our home was the way it is, I not just reincarnated but also journeyed back in time, a lot, still. The first time I laid my eyes on the scenery, I was utterly mesmerized. So, it was a worthy trade-off. The horizon was dominated by tall, snow-capped mountain ranges with a lush valley before us, dotted by small villages and pastures in the distance. I was born in the summer, yet the air was still only around 20 Celsius, which made me realize the winters must be freezing out here. Our castle was located halfway up a mountain, looking over the expansive valley we were in. It wasn't a simple castle, as it was also a fortress, guarding the passageway to the territory everyone called the frontier. By the myth and sagas my mother told me, it was a place filled with wild beasts and monsters that sometimes tried to come through and harass the people of Ashilia. At first, I didn't take it seriously, but it was weird that Ashilia didn't ring any bells for me. I was never a history buff, but I should know most of the kingdoms from medieval times, and I was sure that something like that never existed. Not in Europe, at least, and I swore that my parents looked European. Call me Lulu and dress me in pink, this isn't Europe. was my first thought when I looked at the region's map in our study at the tender age of 4. I was standing on 2 boxes to reach the table and glimpse at the things Father left out on it, including a map of Ashilia. The region was anything but resembling any place I knew about. Holy shit. I wasn't on Earth anymore. The revelation filled me with great excitement and expectations for my future. I couldn't read the text in any of the books or on the map, so I had to start learning the written language fast. I need to know more about where I am. Neither of my parents was surprised when I asked them to teach me, and my mother took on the role happily. Thanks to my brain still retaining all my previous memory and enhancements, it was easy. By the time I turned 6, I was writing my own journal, noting all my ideas down in one place. Even if I could remember them perfectly, I liked penning them down. It gave me a sensation of turning them partially real. What I spent the next years with was reading, and more reading, learning all that I could about the world I found myself in. Oh, and with training in the sword. My father was an excellent fighter, a highly valued soldier and commander, but a small-ranking noble. What I thought of as a life of privilege turned out to be not really it. My family was nothing but a viscount tasked with overseeing the frontier region. That meant this valley and the only entrance to the wilderness, right where our castle was built. It was to be the first stopgate against incoming monsters. Something that was relatively important but also would be sacrificial if it came to that. It was a glorified outpost, a stopgate, nothing but a warning bell that immediately soured my perception of this Ashilia Empire or whatever. My mother came from a family of barons in the neighboring region, a vassal territory to ours, providing us with the necessary food that our soldiers consumed yearly. As to how they met, going by my father's words, he begged his parents to set up a marriage when he first saw her as a kid. Looking at it from my crib as a baby, they did love each other very much. Maybe even too much? Anyway, it turns out that my family does not really have any real power in any other place in the empire. They are nothing but glorified guard dogs of the border region. A pretty good one at that, I must say. I was 9 when I first experienced what it means to watch beasts trying to get into the kingdom. In the winter, there were 3 to 5 meter tall creatures throwing themselves at the outmost walls and traps we had built up in the previous decades and by the previous owners of this castle. Father was fighting them back valiantly with the soldiers, and he even led a cavalry attack, leaving the fort, sweeping the escaping ones in one of the battles. We were eating well that winter. They mostly resembled giant felines from Earth's prehistoric days, but I also noticed some had magical capabilities, like breathing fire. It was that moment when I learned that magic existed in the world, albeit finding mages was rare as anyone with the power to control mana was a strategic resource. Going by my parents' remarks, all the mages that Ashilia had kept their identities hidden and served as secret weapons of the empire, guaranteeing national security against rival kingdoms and empires. My home, this so-called Ashilia Empire, was not a peaceful place at all. While I was born into a family that guarded their back, the forefront of Ashilia was constantly expanding, gobbling up small countries and city-states. It was waging wars with its neighbors in almost every decade, puppeteering others, only resting to recoup their losses between skirmishes and campaigns. I bet we were hated for real by the others, but it also showed that my home country had superior strength to remain standing and not collapse. Good, if it's like this, then I prefer being in the rear and out of harm's way. Thinking about it, I didn't have to worry about being assassinated or some other ploy playing out to get me for another family to rise to prominence and replace us. Besides training with Dad, I was anxious to try and cast magic. I was sure I would be unique. Well, I was already that. But everyone hopes for more, don't we? This time, I had to be disappointed. I had 0 magic. None. Nil. Zilch. It was proven when the local church of the Pantheon of Gods, the religion prevalent in the world, tested my compatibility with a strange orb. Saying that I was crestfallen is an understatement. I still asked my parents if I could read some magic books, and they somehow acquired some beginner stuff I memorized at once. Turns out magic is more complex than I first thought. It is not just waving your hand or a wand, saying the magic words, and poof, a firebolt comes out of it. No, it has multiple, long incantations and formations to adhere to, and the mage may have to hold unique crystals to support the spells and his or her powers. It is used as a kind of conduit and fuel to channel and amplify their mind, which was flowing through it. Reading the introduction showed that casting a strong fireball that could decimate multiple troops required the mage to stand still, mutter the incantation, draw a formation, and do numerous nonsensical things just to cast it. This is so bad. I bit my lips reading it. It does have great power. But a mage is fucked if someone surprises him or her. Well, they can scribe down their spells on special paper, creating one-time use scrolls. But I found no books describing the process and things needed for it. But it did give me an idea. Looking at the beginner magic formations, at first, they looked complicated. After further study, it finally clicked for me. These were similar to blueprints and programs from my time, like how some top-of-the-line, anti-grav, or laser weaponry functioned, mixed with old-age mechanisms. I am not saying this was a one-to-one copy of that, but the principle was very similar. I only had to replace the energy source with mana, and the coding with formations. With a bit of modifications, I think I can replicate stuff. I murmured, studying the basics, getting a new idea rooted in my brain. I can't cast magic, but that does not mean I can't use the magical formations fueled by the mage's energy source, those conduit thingies, if I can get my hand on it. But that would be like wanting to buy plutonium. I don't think they are available at the corner store. Wait, do we even have a corner store here? I don't think so. What I have seen so far of our land is that we only have mud or stone roads, no electricity, no plumbing, and no heating system. Honestly speaking, we are living like a barbarian in my eyes. Ha! Even bathing is a pain in the ass. Maybe I should worry about those things first instead of thinking about magic. 1. Chapter 3. Coming to Age. Not bad! I said to myself, standing nakedly before a mirror. Although it was not a perfect mirror, it was more like a big bronze plate reflecting my appearance. I was happy with what I was seeing. My body was improving daily. I was athletic and attractive with my slick, red hair and green eyes, a perfect mix if I say so myself. I was only 15, but damn, I looked charming. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for giving me some great genes. When I turned 12, I was officially recognized as an adult, and in the past 3 years, I have been helping out my mother. She was the one governing the villages, and I was traveling alongside her to act as a judge when disputes arose amongst the people. We were listening to complaints and problems, trying to negotiate solutions with other regions' envoys, or acting as witnesses to deals and trials. It was pure politics, and I was surprised to see how fluently my mother navigated through it. I don't think I have the same patience that she does. Also, I never wondered why my father trusted her with it. He was much more explosive in temper and quick in making decisions. Well, it did suit him on the battlefield. Despite his size, he was fast and agile, and his reflexes were such that I suspected he was also a transmigrated soul with an enhanced body. But that did not come clutch when it was about dealing with people. For that, my mother perfectly balanced him out. Only a few days ago, when I turned 15, I was given full reign of my life. I completed my studies of our land and its functions under my mother's watchful eyes. Now, I was to act on my own and gain experience in the world. They made me sit down with them yesterday and told me that in the next 3 years, I will be left to my own devices. They won't step in and only help out if I come up with a sensible request. Taking it like making a deal with another region's ruler. They wanted to see how I fared before I was marked as the inheritor of the line of Kalash. Good. Exactly what I wanted, and I think they understood my happiness from the light that danced in my green eyes. First things first. I started to dress up, turning away from my reflection, while I murmured, reciting the points from my notebook that I had used in the past years. We need roads, running water, plumbing, and a sewer system. We are in the mountains. We have multiple rivers and places where the snow never melts. We have ample sources for it, and I bet we have big underground reservoirs that we don't know about. Need to get into animal farming. Our place is unsuitable for growing big swaths of wheat or whatever else, so we have to focus on what we can. We need better support besides importing food from my mother's home region. Resources? We need more resources. I saw how we are being ripped off by others who provide the raw metals and weapons for our armies, soldiers who are defending their greedy asses. We need to start to open up mines and survey the mountains. The pitiful surface-level operations we have is laughable. Modernization. But those things can wait. First things first, I need to survey the towns and villages under our rule to determine which points are the most important. Thinking about it, I just couldn't wait to leave the castle. I already informed my parents that I planned to travel a little. I may be away for a month or so, visiting all the major cities and outposts, even if there is not much in our territory. Besides the town at the foot of the mountain, which housed around 5,000 souls, the rest of the settlements had a maximum of 1,000 people in them. Our whole region was as backwater as it gets, at the size of around 40,000 square kilometers and no more. In contrast, my mother's home region was double that, while the central region, where the capital city was built, was around 150,000 square kilometers. My goal with this trip was to familiarize myself with the terrain and the people and, most importantly, to search for things others missed. Resources that could be useful. I had to be back before winter settled in, as traveling in the heavy snow would be more dangerous than anything. Father does keep a firm grip over the territory, so the threat of bandits should be low. They are not non-existent, as evil is always present where people live, but I should be fine with the training I received. I should also try and invent something more deadly, or would it be too much? I thought out loudly while fastening my longsword on my waist. It was a simple, undecorated piece of metal made for killing and not for showing off. I was pretty proficient with it, learning my father's methods by watching him and making him proud. He said that if I kept bulking, I would be able to match his raw strength. But no thanks. I like myself defined and lean, and he, well damn, he is big. Would he think of me weirdly if I brought some firearms into a world of swords and shields? Or would he think of it as an improved archery? Something that my mother was proficient with? He didn't look down on that, but guns, I will put it on the end of the list. I am not here to start killing people anyway. I grinned, slapping my face before leaving my room. That's right. I am not here to conquer the world. No, I am here to build up my region. I am bound to inherit it, especially because after my birth, my mom failed to get pregnant again. Was it my fault? I hope not. Even if it was, then it is my duty to provide her with some grandchild. I caught them speaking about it once, thinking of getting me wives so they have more heirs. And yes, they talked about it in the plural sense. Thanks, Mom, you are the best. It also made me realize that the living standards are low, child mortality is high, and people don't live that long. No wonder they don't name the kids out of superstition until they turn 2. My father was only 33 now, and my mom was 30. Which meant when I came into this world, my dad was only 18 and my mom 15, and they were trying to make me for 3 years already. Damn. Medieval ages, you are wild. They still look young now, but that is because they were nobles. Regular people may live 40 or 50 years if they are lucky. This had to be changed. Better, longer life, more kids, more time to grow, more time to gain experience, and more time to enjoy life. Yes, enjoying life. That is going to be my goal. I am okay being stuck in here, enjoying the peace, the clean air, and the beautiful scenery. Precisely what my world already forgot about. I will also need to be careful not to mess it up. I don't want to bring in technology from my memories that would start polluting the world. But exactly, that is what magic is for. No, I have so many ideas, but first and foremost, I need to get some of those magic crystal things, and more refined knowledge about magic. I need to find a mage for that. How will I do it? I don't know. But everything will come to a place. If nothing else, I will just wing it. It will be fine, I'm sure. The fresh air. I took a deep breath, walking down the stone road, snaking down from the castle to the valley, watching the emerald fields and its lush grass fields, sparkling with the morning dew still sticking to it. I wasn't going alone as father made it so that Oleg, a warrior from his personal unit, was following me. I was wearing a simple leather outfit, best for traveling long distances and easily withstanding the wear and tear of the wilderness. With my height already at 180 centimeters and still growing, I was destined to reach my father's size of almost 200 centimeters, at least vertically. Then my eyes traveled to Oleg, who was even taller, with long, braided black hair and piercing blue eyes. His height was, if I had to guess, probably around 220 or 230 centimeters, and his body was just like my father's. I was wondering how he managed to get in and out of the barracks at the castle. maybe only sideways, as he was built like a rhino. Was it because of my father? Did he make every personal soldier of his pump iron daily? Probably. Young lord. He noticed my gaze as he walked beside me. You need not worry. I will protect you with my life if it comes to that. I am not worried about that, Oleg. If I would face life-threatening attacks in my father's territory, I would be disappointed. True. He laughed, slapping my shoulders, making me feel like I was hit by a truck once again. It would be our shame as soldiers of Kalash. Soldiers? Aren't you guys being called the pride of Kalash or something like that? Bwahahoho. Yes, but we are not to repeat it too much. Out of humility. It is what the common folk call us. But we are just soldiers. Common folk, eh? I murmured, looking towards the most significant town we had here, the so-called capital of the region, Lionheart. Our castle was overlooking it from a bit farther away, up on the side of the mountains, and it was the picturesque image of what most medieval towns were in the history books. That was where we were heading right now. It won't be my first time coming here. I visited many of the settlements, but I did it with my mother. I entered the carriage in the castle, exited it at the local noble's courtyard. I never walked their streets. I was mainly in the background, dressed in the attire of a clerk or an insignificant helper. I wasn't really introduced, so people would ignore me, and I could survey them more easily from the back. Mother's mind did work in weird ways sometimes. I did wonder now how people would react to me. Would they recognize me? Would they see my parents' features in me? Probably yes. That is why I was wearing a hat, hiding my crimson hair. I was hoping I could pass on as an adventurer while Oleg was my companion or master. He couldn't pass on as anything else but a warrior. It simply was ingrained into his body since birth. I was so excited, adventuring in a completely different world. I have been waiting for this since my rebirth. 1. Chapter 4, Reality. Shit, it was the first thing that came to my mind, walking into the town on the cobblestone road. When I previously visited, I exited the carriage at the mayor's house, which was in a private courtyard at the other end of the town. This time, we were coming in on foot, walking along the northern road, which was pretty deserted. It led to our castle, so not many would use it, and not many people were there to see us arrive. There were no walls here. It was pretty open, built in a flat area where the houses sprung up naturally throughout the years, resulting in many sneaking roads and dark alleyways. It was a little labyrinthian, but it gave it a unique charm. Scouring my memories, our cities were all planned. Everything was straight, meeting at a 90-degree angle. It made sense. It was clean. Lionheart before me? Anything but. I barely managed to step over the pile of shit left on the cobblestone by a horse. Who knows when. It was what prompted me for my previous outbursts. For Oleg, this was perfectly normal. He didn't even notice it, nor did he wrinkle his nose as we walked over it and headed into the city. Passing by the many wooden houses until we arrived on the main street, I had to repeatedly curse, dodging dumb minds. Shit, I repeated under my breath as the clean, fresh air was gone, replaced by the stench of piss, shit, and who knows what. I was expecting a fantasy-esque town. Maybe some colorful houses? None. All was brown because of the wood it was built from, only colored a little by the straw roofs they had. Okay, there were a few lighter-colored houses made out of cob, the mixing of clay-based subsoil, sand, straws, and water. The wealthier people managed to erect stone houses, but those were extra rare. I know that the mayor had his made out of it, and the temple of the pantheon of gods was also a beautiful and sturdy building made of lime mortar and some other stuff I didn't recognize. The roads? Those were made out of cobblestone and dirt, or horse shit. I couldn't tell because everything was stinking like the nine hells. I saw people throwing buckets of something into side alleyways out of sight, but phuck. This was not just looking dire or smelling nasty. It was a biohazard waiting to explode. We need a proper sewer system, and I wasn't thinking about modern things. Hell, I remember reading about the Roman times. We solved the problem way earlier then. Whenever this was, whatever timeline I was reborn into. Is something the matter, young lord? Oleg asked, noticing me wincing and grimacing constantly as we walked towards the market square. A lot, I answered, trying not to hold my nose and look like some kind of snobbish brat. This place is a mess. I remember going to a small village with my mother, where I felt it was okay. But this is a town. What the hell? This is a cesspit, young lord? He asked again, confused as he found nothing out of the ordinary or any reason I would say that. In his eyes it was a lovely town, with many people present, so it was lively both in the daytime and at night. Don't mind me. I shrugged, looking around, and most people ignored us. Or me. To be honest, many did peek at Oleg. He was huge, but nobody had the gall to gaze at him for long before turning away or walking around us. I simply used to more cleaner places. Well, maids maintain the castle daily. Here, that can't be done. He nodded, thinking about it, scratching his chin. Not that, no matter. Let's go to the temple. Why? He asked, but still started to lead me to it. I want to see it, that is all. I was wondering about it as my father always mentions Tuba this and Tuba that, while my mother answers that Ariana would do this and Ariana would do that. And, young lord, they never explained? They did. I shrugged. I know that 6 deities were visiting our world once. Of course, I didn't mention that I believed none of it. From those 6, one was a man named Tuba who was a warrior, upholding justice. Hogwash. If you asked me, of course, I would also not say that out loud as everyone seemed to take it seriously, as if they witnessed it. The woman named Ariana was smart and just, but her wrath could turn day into night and summon demons from hell itself. Which sounded like an angry wife to my ears. Yes. Oleg nodded rapidly as we walked towards the temple. The pantheon is made up of the 6 deities. Besides Tabu and Ariana, Wyland, Valen, Elise, and Orsi are the rest. I know of their names, but I will be honest. I'm not really into believing in deities. There are many proofs, young lord. Oleg explained while we arrived, entering the temple and walking into the domed, clean building, and the fresh scent of burning incense assaulted my senses. The relief from the smell of shit. Temples are not that bad after all. Sure, I answered, not really listening to him, listing out all the marks littering our world. In my previous life or now, I wasn't interested in old fairy tales. The inner sanctum was decorated with their statues, standing in a circle, studying their figures. They were nothing extravagant, but I noticed they all wore a similar robe, colored black and purple. 3 of them were men, while the other 3 were women. I quickly lost all interest, regarding them the same as our old, ancient people's nonsense. What I was genuinely interested in was the temple itself and how it was built. I walked around and studied the walls, the seams between its blocks, the work on the statues, the marks on the floor, and the ceiling. All this pointed out that we had the technology to build something modern, something sturdy. I would bet a lot that this temple could withstand some abuse or survive a fire. The houses in the city? Not so much. Good, then this also means it is not the problem of, can we do it? Instead, it is a problem of, how much will it cost? Where did the stones come from? I asked Oleg, not expecting an answer, but I turned out to be lucky. The temple was built long ago, he explained after recalling his memories. The church was financed by the empire. They opened a mine in the mountains, a few 100 kilometers away from here. It was mined and cut to pieces there, then transported here. Why don't we do the same? I asked, turning towards him in surprise. The buildings here are ultra shabby. But, young lord, we can't, he said gobsmacked. First of all, we don't have the resources or money to buy the equipment and people to start mining and transporting. Secondly, the thing that holds stone buildings together is a national secret. Only the empire can send artisans out to build something out of stone. Even your own home, the Fortress of the Wild, was built and is owned by the empire. What a pain in the ass! I groaned, rubbing my head. Is everyone this paranoid here, young lord? Nothing, Oleg. I waved my hand. I saw what I wanted. Let's go. But no prayer, young lord? He asked, a bit conflicted, bowing towards the statues. None. I am not a fan of that. Now, I want to see all the stone buildings in the city. Can you show me around? Why, yes. He hurried after me, continuing to play the role of a somewhat confused guide. The whole day was about nothing else but surveying the masonry works of the empire. I studied all the buildings that were not erected by locals but by government-employed artisans. It was evident that everything was determined by money. The mayor's place was only 40% close to what the temple looked like, in build quality at least. Other, wealthier nobles' place was even less well built, but, At least it was made from rock and stone and had some style to it. The fact that they kept something as simple as mortar secret was sick. Paranoid beyond belief. I will need to start from scratch. By nightfall, I was in my room at the local inn, finishing washing up from cold water poured out in a bucket, using rags to clean myself. This also needs to change. I need to start introducing running water in bathhouses and personal hygiene. I don't care if they look at me weirdly that I want to bathe and clean myself daily. Damn it, I'm not a barbarian. With anger, I opened up my little notebook after sitting down on the edge of my bed, naked, and started writing. There is a lot to be done. 1. Chapter 5, Touring. The following days I did nothing else but walk up and down in the town. Most people were already familiar with my face, deeming me a weirdo as I drew a street map in my notebook, muttering to myself. I spent 2 weeks doing it, recording all the details and amazing Oleg with my cityscape drawings. He said I could easily be a painter as my pencil sketches looked like he was staring at reality itself. I think he was simply trying to butter up to me. I don't think they are that good, but it felt nice being appreciated. I like compliments as I am a simple man. Somehow, I always missed it in my previous life. I got nothing from home and life, not until I got older, and then, when I did, I was dead the next day. Oh well, there is no point in wallowing in it. Instead, I should wallow because this is a complete mess. Not good. I moaned, sitting with Oleg in my room on the tavern's second floor, looking at the torn-out pages, forming a detailed map of the whole town. I think it looks terrific, young lord. It is more detailed than what we have at the castle. No, I am talking about how this city was built. I pointed at the snaking streets, their crisscrossing form, and how it was more like a labyrinth than a city. It is a mess. No symmetry and no elegance. It was built haphazardly, attaching new roads, houses, and buildings to each other, wherever you felt like it. But, it's normal, young lord. This how cities are made. Then we will change it. Start from zero. You can't just destroy a city. That would lead to an uprising, young lord. Not to mention, the empire would take it as an attack on itself. All this is the property of the ruling emperor or empress, even if it's under your control, young lord. Think about it, Oleg exclaimed, going into a panic. Relax, my truck-sized friend. Truck what? He asked, blinking his eyes rapidly, not getting it. No matter. I am not demolishing the city. I will build a new one. My own. I laughed loudly, throwing off the papers from the desk and laying out different ones, a whole set of them, showing a perfectly designed city. By my calculations, this new one could house at least 50,000 people. It should be enough for the whole region. I already designed it to be perfectly sensible and symmetric to look at. In the middle would be the royal sector, of course. I am everything but a saint. I need my own place. So, I totally stole the idea of the Forbidden City's plans and laid it out to be my next home. It should give enough space to live comfortably. Next, I designed it so that the homes of my future, most trusted partners would be around it, surrounding me. I need to recruit people I can rely on. I wouldn't be able to do everything alone. I need some excellent brains to help me govern this shithole KHM region. Yes, the shitting problem will be solved too. My lord? Oleg asked, seeing me grinning and giggling like an idiot. Nothing. I shook my head, running my finger along the sewer system drawn on my plans. I will make a city so clean you can lick the ground and not get sick. I also designed it to have trees and a lot of green planted while building. I want colors, beautiful trees blooming in the spring, and the smell of flowers when you walk down the main street. It will be the desired holy place for anyone in this sorry world. Ha! On the outer skirts should be the rest of the housing for the people, shops, markets, whatever I need to run the city. I was expecting it to be booming and blooming every day. I want it to be the heart of the region where people come to visit and spend their money. Money, I whispered my biggest opponent right now. I don't even know if the locals have enough to afford anything. Ha! So, I will need to ensure we get the ball rolling. If I can push it down the hill, it will snowball. I think. I'm not really a finance guru, but even I know we will need to step up our industrial sector for that to happen, which will be at a different place. I don't want to pollute my future home. It was the thought that led me to my next goal, the mountains. Recollecting my plans, I asked Oleg to lay down the map of the surrounding mountains, especially where the stone came for the building of the Pantheon. I will visit that next and see what I can do with it. I won't build from wood that can rot away and be burnt down by an invading force or monsters. Everything will be sturdy and heavy of stone to withstand the ages, nature, and magic. I need to make sure we are magic-proof. As to how? Well, I will come up with something, or I will rename myself to Lulu. Traveling to the mountains was much harder than I thought it would be. The footpath was overgrown, and we had to track through a challenging, uneven terrain while getting closer to the old site where the church mined the rocks for its purposes. It took us 4 days of literal marching, watching the mountainous horizon getting bigger and bigger. It was a sight to behold for sure, seeing the snow-capped tips getting closer and more prominent day by day. I was loving it. The air was so clean and fresh. With one deep breath, I was rejuvenated at once. Young lord, we will need to get a bit more alert now, Oleg said, constantly surveying our surroundings as we were heading into the pine forest surrounding the basin of the mountains. His giant hand was resting on the hilt of his sword, making me furrow my brows. Are there bandits here? You can never know, he replied, walking in front of me. There are some old logging sites around here, but they have been abandoned for decades now. We switched to a different location to let the forest regenerate. There are always low lives around places like this. No matter what you do, some people choose to be evil. When you can take others' property, why work hard? True. I tilted my head, finding no fault in his words. And people like them don't do well in society, so they are drawn to places like this. Like rats, living in others' hopes and dreams. You can be surprisingly deep, Oleg. I laughed, pointing a thumbs up toward his back. Thank you, young lord. He laughed sheepishly. I try to read a lot. It is a privilege to be able to read, a gift bestowed upon us soldiers by your esteemed father. Wait, you don't learn reading? I asked, surprised, almost tripping up myself. Not really. He looked at me over his shoulder. The average citizen gets to learn a little, but most can only write their own names and read short, simple notices. Anything complicated, long, or filled with flowery words is going to be lost to them. No fucking way. I groaned, rubbing my temples with 2 hands. Then I will need public education too? Shiite. Another problem. Okay, I will deal with that too. Fuck. Young lord, you want to teach the people? He asked, stopping, looking stunned. Of course. I shrugged, opening my arms wide. What should I do with a bunch of illiterate people? How would I be able to trust anything they do? Should I do everything by myself? I am not a mule. I need qualified people who can think for themselves, and I can delegate the tasks so I can focus on the big picture. Let my subordinates micromanage it. I will do the macro side of it. What are micro and macro, young lord? He asked, scratching his head, looking lost. No matter. The thing is, Oleg, reading and knowing numbers is something essential. I will need all of my subjects to be capable of doing it. Everyone? Everyone. I quoted a famous line, proud of myself, but I also knew he didn't understand it. But he still wiped his eyes of tears. How benevolent! My lord, you are a truly good person. Am I? Well, if you say it, sure, I guess. Yes, you young lord, he shouted and lunged at me. I didn't know what was happening, but when I was on the ground, shielded by his big body, I noticed the arrow landing close to us. It would have missed me, shooting at my feet instead. Honestly, it looked like a warning shot, if anything, but I was still touched by his quick reaction and going so far in protecting me. But I was not a fan of being squashed by a big, muscular guy lying on me. Why couldn't he be a beauty? Well, at least I know that I can keep my mind clear and calm even in danger. 1. Chapter 6. Shadow People. In reality, Oleg only laid on me for a brief moment before jumping up, grabbing me by the scruff, and dragging me into the forest, hiding behind one of the thick trees. With his long sword at the ready, peering out, his eyes were searching for the attacker like a hawk scans the land for prey. I wasn't complaining. A little roughing up is not something that would kill me, and he was my bodyguard anyway. It could have been a warning shot, I said calmly, looking out, watching the improvised arrow stuck in the ground. It was something that was not the work of a blacksmith, but more like something thrown together haphazardly. They aimed at you, my lord. Their life is forfeit. I'm just saying. I shrugged, not wanting to argue. Oh, at 10 o'clock. At what? There. I pointed it out for him, where I saw the shrubs move on the other side. They probably retreated. Nice catch, We are going back and reporting this to Lord Kalash. We are going to come back with force and find these bandits. Whoa! Relax, Oleg. Bandits? Why are we not surrounded then? Why are we not robbed yet? They may have been only scouts. Do bandits use twigs and stone arrows? Because if they do, I am not really afraid of them. I shrugged, patting the authentic steel sword at my waist. You want to follow them? Oh? You are sharper than I expected. Yep, I do. I laughed, feeling excited. Young lord, that is not a good idea. You can go back and make your report. I am going after them while their trail is hot. Damn it! Oleg cursed as I was already striding forward, crossing the clearing and heading towards where I saw movement before. I was in the army previously. I mean, in my original life. I wasn't always responsible for unearthing ancient machines, no. I was part of my home country's mobile regiment, and was a combat engineer on the front lines when our forces were sent to deal with insurgency. Some still thought it was the Third World War, yet that shit ended when I was 4. I am trying to say that I had live combat experience before being called back and given a safer position. It happened after proving myself and my skills with machines, and then I was killed by essentially a friendly fire accident. Wonderful. Oh? I stopped, hearing voices in the distance signaling to Oleg, who asked no questions but likewise slowed down, catching up to me. We inched forward slowly, trying to make as little noise as possible and listening in to the conversation. You idiot! Why did you shoot at them? Now they know we are here. A man shouted at another. It snapped. I didn't want to shoot. I will snap you into two too. Idiot. Now they will bring people here, and we will be discovered. She will be discovered. Hey! I whispered to Oleg. Can you disarm the two? And capture them alive? Alive? Confused, he asked. We should chop their heads off and display them on pikes. No? Then we won't have a chance to question them. Or if you can evoke some kind of spell to speak to the dead. I can't cast magic, young lord. See? So, can you capture them or not? I think I can. Good, do that for me, okay? The significant advantage of being the son of the region's lord is that our subordinates do listen to our orders. Seeing my order, Oleg didn't question it a second time and stepped forward faster than his big, bulky body would suggest. Before the two had any reaction, he was between them, bringing down his sword and knocking the shouting one out. Its pommel landed square on the back of his head, and it was lights out at once. Next, before his panicked, surprised partner could get anything out of his belt, Oleg punched him in the gut. I could only hear grunting and gurgling, and his body collapsed. Weak, he said, his voice betraying his surprise while I walked out looking at the two figures. Of course they are! Look at them. They are bare bones. Crouching down, turning them to their backs, revealed their emancipated figures. They were grossly underweight, wearing shabby clothes that looked like what you would find on a nature-loving elf from some fantasy story, or on a sociopath, living in the forest for 40 years. I couldn't tell their age, but I was sure they would be in their 30s, or 40s, maybe younger, but had a hard life. Let's get some vines and tie them up, I said, kicking away their weapons that looked like tools from the Stone Age. Good idea! He nodded, and they were already tied to a tree by the time one of them was in the middle of deciding whether to wake up or not. He wanted to cry but couldn't as the sharp pain assaulted his head from where Oleg hit him with the pommel of his sword. Any excuses before being dealt judgment? Oleg asked, sneering. You can't just kill us. We are Dash. The man panicked, but Oleg smacked him so hard that I saw a tooth flying out. You attacked the son of the lion himself. You will be flayed alive, your skin fed to you, and then you will be tied to a pole so the animals from the other end of the mountains come and snack on you. I spoke up, twitching my mouth. You scared him a bit too much, but it's true, my lord, he protested. A simple beheading is not enough of a punishment, whatever, he fainted. I shrugged with a groan, rubbing my forehead. Next time, I will ask questions. You just stay alert, okay? It took me a little effort to wake up the other guy, the one who had supposedly shot the arrow at me. When he heard who I was, he fainted too. Great. I was getting annoyed, so I decided to wake them up with a splash. Of course, I won't use water on them, that would be a waste. So I simply pissed on them until they woke up. What? I asked Oleg, who looked on, his jaw hanging close to the floor. My lord, you are pitiless. Efficient. I ain't wasting our drinking water on two idiots. Now. I turned to the two, who were just as dazed as what had just happened. I want to hear everything you know, or my friend here will break your legs, and we will drag you back to the city for your public execution. None of them fainted again this time, and I quickly learned of their predicament. They called themselves shadow people because they were citizens who somehow slid down to the absolute bottom and left their towns and villages, deciding to live in the forest. On paper, they didn't even exist anymore. Their current base was at the old logging site, and their little collective numbered around a dozen men and women, led by their queen. It's an interesting title, to say the least. What is special about this queen? I asked, feeling the weird reverence in their voices. She can dash. Shut up! Now, this was interesting. Suddenly they were not so keen on speaking anymore. I looked at Oleg, who slapped a few teeth out of them once again, but none budged. Now, this was most interesting. Something is so special about that woman that they grow a backbone. How long would it be to send a message back? I asked, crossing my arms. If I run, I can return with people on horses by dawn. Do it. Bring enough men so we can capture everybody. I'll stay here, guarding these two dash. My lord, that is too dangerous. Enough! I put my foot down, looking up at him with a serious gaze. Who am I? Lord Leon, the young cub of the lion of the frontier. Then do as I say. The more you dally, the longer I will remain alone. Yes, young lord. He saluted and sprinted away as if his life depended on it. Now. I crouched down, watching their faces with a soft smile. Won't you tell me what is so special with your queen? No. They answered, but I saw in the eyes of the more submissive one that he was ready to spill the beans. I see. Okay. I pulled out my sword and knocked out the more aggressive one with another pommel strike. I think he may have brain damage now. Oh well, let's talk. I looked at his comrade. We are going to make a simple deal. Whatever the outcome is, you won't be killed, nor tortured. I chuckled a little, feeling like I was playing some kind of villain in a school play. You swear? He asked, already gulping the bait down with hook and sinker. How desperate can one be? On my name as the son of Kalash, our queen is special, she can. At that, he went mute for a little. I wasn't hurrying him, simply watching his face, reading his emotions. He was part hesitant, part guilty about what he was about to do. She is a mage. Really? I asked, my voice loud, scaring some of the birds away from the treetops. Tell me more. Her name is... Well, I don't know what her name is, but she was born in the capital city, in our territory, or are you talking about the Empire's capital? Here. He added quickly. A simple commoner, my lord. It was discovered early that she could do things. Sometimes tools around her levitated when she was sleeping. That is what I heard. And what is she doing in the forest with a bunch of hobos? Hobo. No matter. He murmured, thinking it was some fancy word and it best not to ask about the language of aristocrats. Her parents didn't want to give her up, so they fled into the forest and have lived here ever since. We gathered around them because she can do things, heal injuries and make miracles. Miracles, eh? I scratched my chin, even more interested now. I don't believe in miracles, but I do believe in magic. I can't wait to meet one who can cast it. Lucky. Ah ha ha ha, in the end, I may just get what I was missing. I whispered, walking up and down before the two men and couldn't wait for Oleg to return. 1. Chapter 7, A Witch. Next, Oleg arrived right by dawn. He looked out of breath but still full of energy, followed by a dozen warriors, all from my father's personal men. You were fast. I laughed, welcoming them, ignoring the two who were still tied to the trees, moaning, and admitting we weren't kidding about who we were. Of course, young lord. He hopped down from the horse, breathing out with relief that I was okay. We should be enough to deal with any ragtag bunch who took up residence in our forest. I already investigated where they are, I said loudly, looking at the rest, dismounting their horses. Do you all know where the old logging site is? Good. I grinned, seeing them nod. We are going to travel there on foot. Tie the horses up, I explained, showing them a drawing on the ground. While waiting, I wasn't just chatting with the prisoners. I made sure they told me everything about the place, and I drew it out, making my plans. We would surround the site and ambush them. I told Oleg that there was a wild mage inside, and his face went dark, listening to everything I said. First, he wanted to complain it was sneaky and dishonorable to do so, but after saying there is a witch, he no longer complained. That is the power of magic. I already knew it was a rare and unique gift, so much so that most people thought a mage could do anything. Don't worry, she is untrained and weak, I continued, trying to keep the men calm and collected. And we want to capture them alive, okay? Use non-lethal attacks. What? They asked, making me twitch my eyes. Don't kill, please. I need them. Think, if we can capture them, we can control the witch. If you kill them, what if she goes apes hit, and conjures something to kill us all? Huh, think a little, man. With hostages, she will come with us peacefully. My lord, are you sure? With the witch around, it will be fine. I want her to join us, not to threaten. When the initial shock has settled down, let me talk, okay? Young lord, relax. Trust me. If I come in like, oh hello, I am the son of the lord of this region, I am here to recruit you, blah blah blah. She would think I want to place a collar on her, and keep her as a pet. Why else would she be out here? She values her freedom, for sure. So, I think the quickest method to get her is to be more straightforward and, well, we need to show our strength. Show her we can do this multiple ways, and I am open to taking the cooperative route. They had no real answer to my monologue, but that was good. I was already excited to do it, so we left for the logging site after going over the plan a second time. It wasn't that far, only an hour of walking distance, following the old route now overgrown with shrubs. When we got close, we could hear the noise they were making, waking up and starting their morning routine. Spreading out, I also took part in the ambush, rushing in from the front side of the place. Surveying it, it had some old warehouse, a few buildings, and many shabby tents held up by sticks, leaves, and whatnot. It was worse than a shanty town from my time. I think some homeless people live better than these poor men and women. Yes, both were present. Hell, I think there were more women than men. Not that there were many of them, around 20 people at most, all of them scrawny and dirty. There, I quickly singled out who I thought must be the witch. She had a different aura covering her. Yes, her clothes were rags thrown around her bony body. Her thick, bushy, dark, orange-colored hair had leaves stuck to it, and her face blackened by dirty spots. But she exuded something unnatural from her spores that even I could pick up. It is hard to put it into words, but it is the same feeling when you open the door to a cool cellar on a hot summer day. I was aiming for her from the moment I noticed her coming out from one of the wooden sheds. She was clearly panicked, not knowing what to do, but I couldn't take chances. If she really was a witch, she could be dangerous. I read about how those who never were educated caused themselves and everyone around them to blow up. Of course, I had my doubts, but it never hurts to be careful. I was before her in a few seconds, using the techniques from my past life, quickly wrestling her to the ground before she could cast any spells. Don't move or try anything, if you try releasing any magic. Otherwise, I will have to hurt you. I shouted, seeing and feeling her tremble while I knelt on her back, pinning her to the ground. Don't hurt them, she cried, thinking this was all caused by her. Well, it wasn't that far off the truth. I won't. Pulling her up, I held her arms locked behind her back with one hand, holding my sword with the other. She was unhealthy and slim, so much so that I think I could have broken her bones if I had twisted her a little more. Don't struggle, and you won't be hurt. We are soldiers of the lion himself. As the son of Kalash, I give my word you won't be killed if you give up now. I was surprised that my words had any effects. Many stopped struggling or trying to fight back. They were simply giving up. Looking at me, my blazing red hair probably gave it away that I wasn't lying. Besides my mother, I didn't see anybody with this same scarlet color parading around this part of the country. When everybody was under control, I made them gather, and my men tied their arms behind their backs as to my instructions. I did the same with the witch, and to be extra careful, I also covered her mouth. I know they had to say incantations to cast the spell. I just hoped saying it in their head was not enough. Listen! I looked at them while Oleg and 2 other soldiers stood behind me, holding crossbows at the ready. 2 of you attacked me yesterday. Seeing how they looked around, realizing who was missing, and the change in their faces, I knew the 2, left with the horses, were probably hiccuping like mad. Totally deserved. Fighting back the urge to laugh, I continued seriously, as if I was taking a huge risk here. I ought to execute all of you for this capital offense. Ignoring the loud cry for mercy, I continued on. If not that, the simple fact that you are squatting here is worthy of serious punishment, not to mention having a rouge which... I looked at the girl who had tears in her eyes, looking around at the others, trying to apologize with her gaze. Now I truly felt like a villain. Shit, well, suck it up, Leon, and continue. Look. I switched to a much lower, kinder voice. I'm not here to cause you trouble. I need people. I have ambition, and tell you what, I am here to offer you two choices. I walked up and down, explaining it clearly and simply. First, you get punished, according to the law, or you come with me and be my subordinates, not the church, the empire, or my family's subordinate, my subordinate. What do you say? I didn't expect a quick answer, but many of them almost immediately chose the second option. That was relieving. Of course, I wouldn't trust them just like that, not immediately, but they will have time to prove their worth and loyalty. First and foremost, I needed to secure the witch, without anyone knowing about it. I don't know if my parents would approve of it, but for the things I have planned, I will need their help, so I will find a way to convince them. Will you cooperate? I asked, but I only had the witch in my sight, who knew I was pinning this question directly to her. With a slow nod, she gave her answer, and I waved my hand, and we started to empty the camp. It was time to go home. Visiting the mountains? That can wait. My travel around the countryside? Will also wait for me. This was much more important. I will take this out. I mumbled, helping her to stand, personally guarding her, loosening the cloth in her mouth, and letting it fall to her neck like a weird, saliva-soaked scarf. Just don't start mumbling a spell, or I will have to do something I don't want to. I can't really cast spells. She sniffled, looking crestfallen. If you think you are capturing a strong witch that can level cities, you are making a big mistake. I don't need you to blast my enemies with lightning nor summon a flood. I chuckled merrily. I just need someone attuned to magic to help me with my research. Studying magic is like a blind man trying to learn writing and reading for me. I can't use it. You are learning magic? She looked at me weirdly. Kinda. It's complicated. Listen, what I said is all the truth. I am here not to punish you all. Honestly, I am here because I heard you were capable of magic, so it was me who brought pain to everyone, again. She lowered her head, and I saw tears falling to the ground while we walked. Temporary pain. I told you, I'm not going to hurt you, said the soldiers before they murdered my parents. Now that was something I didn't expect, nor did it add up to the other two's tale. Not that they could have been important, or somebody close to her. Well, I had the source walking next to me while holding her still-bound arm with one hand. What is your name? Sasha. That is my real name, the one given to me by my mother. The people here call me Queen. Please ignore that, my lord. They don't know better. No problem. Well, I am Leon. Good to meet you. We have a long road to walk, so, care to enlighten me what happened? What if I don't want to? Fair. I shrugged. No pressure. How's life? You all look dreadful. I switched the topic immediately, making her raise her head with surprise, amusement, and anger. What? You said you didn't want to talk about it. I have other questions that need answering. No? Okay then, how old are you? 16 or 17? I don't really know. Tisk tough. Favorite color? Huh. Cats or dogs? Huh. She repeated, getting lost by now. What are your 3 sizes? Looking at you, they are probably in the minus category, as not even a bulimic model aspirant looks this bony. Huh, nah, ignore it, we will dash. Just stop. She moaned, half crying, half laughing, letting out a defeated sigh. I'll speak, okay? I'm all ears, Sasha, and do take your time. I'm not in a hurry. 1.